Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode here at the Portcast. Today, we have a very special guest with us today, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself and also about her entrepreneur journey. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Not at all. I am Melissa Charles, aka Nurse Betty, and I'm happy to be here.
Okay, thank you for being here. So, Nurse Betty, where did you grow up?
I actually grew up in Norwalk.
Okay, and how was it growing up in Norwalk?
It was good. It was good. Originally born in Virginia.
Okay.
I believe I was maybe turning 6 or 7. Relocated to Norwalk. Okay. My mom, my 2 older sisters, I'm the baby girl, and we moved up here.
So let's talk about your past and your current profession. What do you do for a living?
I am a registered nurse by trade. I just went through a major transition just August of 2022. So still into the nursing field, it just looks a lot different. So I'm venturing into entrepreneurship, actually.
Okay. And why did you choose to get into the nursing field?
Now that's actually a funny story because my initial training, my first profession was English and journalism because I am a writer. I'm a born writer. Spent a little time in corporate America. I still write pretty much on a freelance basis, or if I'm asked to write something, I've done like histories for churches and, unfortunately obituaries and pretty much anything that's requested of me. But I decided that I wanted to become a nurse. I was actually working in Stanford Hospital in the emergency room. I was not in a nursing position. I feel like it was something that was always in the back of my mind. But I was working at the hospital just 20 hours to get the benefits because at that time I was a freelance writer for a Black-owned publication. But I needed the benefits, so I took a 20-hour position at the hospital for the sake of the healthcare. And I remember working in the emergency room and people would come in and I would listen to the nurses triage. And the very questions that they were asking the people were the questions that I already had in my mind. So I believe that kind of brought me back to that little part of me inside that apparently wanted to be a nurse and for whatever reason just hadn't chosen it as my initial field. But I decided there in working in the emergency room at Stanford Hospital that I was going to go back to school. I was nicely in my 30s to become a registered nurse, and that's what I did.
Okay, so it was pretty much faith that brought you to becoming a nurse.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, I understand that nursing can be very demanding and stressful. So outside of the academic part, what type of skills set or characteristics one would need to cope with being a nurse?
I've been asked that a lot, and one of the first things that comes to my mind is the stuff that's not taught. Like, you can be taught how to do a skill. You can go into a lab and you can be shown how to do this or shown how to do that, but there's so much of nursing that really has to be inbred. The compassion, caring, having a stomach for it. I mean, can you train yourself not to get sick at certain smells? Maybe you can. But there are some people who can just tell you flat out, that is not for me. So it's the skill set, it's the compassion, it's the things that you're born with, and then it's life lessons. Like for myself, because nursing was a second profession for me, when I came into nursing, I came having already lived a little bit. I mean, I wasn't like old as dirt, but I had lived a little bit. So I knew a little bit about the world. And that's important because with nursing, you meet so many different people. There's such an exposure to different people, to large numbers, masses of people. It's really an opportunity to meet people.
So when you became a nurse, I'm sure your family was excited and proud for you.
I believe so. I'm pretty adventurous, so if I had to guess like what they were saying in the back of their head, like, what is Lisa? My family calls me Lisa. That's another nickname that I have. What is Lisa up to now? Because I can't recall a time like where I had long, extensive conversations about it. I knew, I'm born caring. I'm a nurturer. So I was very aware of who I am. And, I knew that back then. But I just can't recall like sitting around having like conversations with them saying, oh, I want to be a nurse. I want to be a nurse. I want to go to nursing school. So I don't know. I don't know if it was like, wow, what is Lisa up to this time, or if they were surprised or weren't surprised. But I can tell you they were very supportive. Even though I was an adult, like I said, I was very much into my 30s. It was like, if this is what you're gonna do, my mom's super supportive, sisters super supportive.
Yeah, I can tell you one of the things that they were thinking, because in the black community, when someone in your family goes on to be a nurse or a doctor, they're happy for you, but they also feel that they have free access to you 24/7 if they need to call you up for any type of medical advice.
Oh boy.
So have you experienced that?
Oh my goodness. Not only that, but you need to have the answer, the diagnosis, regardless of what it is. What comes to mind is my oldest sister. She'll call in, she'll say, Lisa, this happened or that happened. What do you think it is? And I'm like, well, first of all, nurses don't diagnose. Well, what'd you learn in school? Well, why don't you know the answer to that? So you get a lot of that. The expectation is, for you to recognize what it is, give it a name, give it a diagnosis. Now tell me how to fix it.
Okay. So I asked that question to lead into the next question I have for you. And that's, why do you think people from the black and brown community have lack self-awareness when it comes to being more proactive with their physical and mental health?
What I have encountered from my years of experience with nursing is that a lot of it is fear. I don't want to know. Well, why wouldn't you go and get checked? Or, why have you waited to this point to follow up? If it's not killing me or if it doesn't debilitate me, then I don't need to know right now. And that's just what I've encountered. I do believe that there are other factors. I think that a lot of it is lack of awareness. And kind of lack of thinking of what's after. I believe that a lot of people feel like, I'm experiencing this, now it's stopped and it's gone, so it's no longer an issue. So there's a severe lack of follow-up. People in general, and this isn't just black and brown people, tend to do like this self-diagnosis thing. Or they pull from the remedies, what mama did, or, auntie so-and-so from down by the riverbank, mix this together. And I'm not knocking that.
You about to get somebody bad.
Well, truth is truth. Again, I'm not knocking that. Do I believe that, everything biblically is planted by the river to help us? Absolutely. But in the same turn, I don't believe that if you have a headache 5 days out of a 7-day week, that you should ignore it. And that's my point, and that's what I push as far as educating and speaking to the communities.
Okay, so let's speak about educating and speaking to the community, and talk about your entrepreneur journey and how you're giving back to the community. So you do have your own business. Do you mind talking about your business a little bit?
Not at all. Not at all. I can remember a particular day in my career. At that time I was specializing. I'm a nephrology nurse as well, so I spent several years of my nursing career working in a dialysis setting, specializing in home remedies for dialysis. And I can remember this particular day, I was with a gentleman and we were working together, and I heard, this has to come beyond the walls. This has to leave the walls of a clinic, of a hospital, of an institution. And I knew when I heard that it wasn't specific to that place where I was, it was globally. Like, you need to bring this information, you need to bring this awareness out into the community. And this was probably back in 2013 or 14. And I didn't really move. I mean, I always talk to people. Like you mentioned before, when people know that you're in the profession, they come, they ask the questions. That's just common. But I didn't move on that voice that I heard that told me back then, this has to go outside of the walls and into the community because people need this. So in 2020, I got a similar download, and it was kind of in my belly, like, you have to do something about this. I mean, I've been fortunate to do different areas of nursing, but the years that I spent in dialysis and working with the population who suffers from kidney failure, kidney disease, just kind of stuck with me. And no matter what I did after that point, I kind of always went back. Not went back physically, but just went back as far as doing discussions at my church, talking to people in the community suffering with hypertension, suffering with diabetes, which are the two leading causes of chronic kidney disease. And even though I didn't work in the actual dialysis center, because my patients did it at home, so they were trained to do it at home, I would walk throughout the center, and I was always amazed by what I saw in the dialysis centers. So that, coupled with the thought and the voice that I heard, this has to go beyond the walls. I need to get to these people before they come in here to me, or before they're in an ICU, or before they lose a limb or get to the point of amputation. Going back to your previous question, some people just don't know. They don't know that ignoring the headaches, ignoring the swelling, not knowing if you're diabetic or not following up, not getting tested. Some people just don't know the questions to ask, to follow up. They don't know that they're in trouble. So Good Heart RN is the business, and we are committed to, it's Good Heart RN, nurture, educate, and support, to nurture the community, to nurture people by being in a position to hear them, to answer the questions, to teach so that now they know the questions to ask.
So can you talk about some of the services that you provide to organizations and individuals here in the community?
Certainly. So Good Heart RN, the entire purpose is to educate, to bring awareness, and to promote wellness. So we will go we'll go to your ministry, we'll go into your local community center. If you have a corporate event, we'll come to your corporate setting. Anywhere that people will benefit from being inspired to take a self-advocacy approach, become a self-advocate, just with the goal of being well. So we will come to you. Our long-term goal is to get to where we will do one-on-one consultations, virtual consultations. For now, we're hitting the ground running in the community. So we'll come out to your community center setting and we'll talk. We'll do education, maybe some giveaways, something a little fun that tends to bring people out. We have actually a few dates on the book right now to go to some local churches who have a heart for wellness and healthcare. So we would speak in that setting as well.
We were talking off camera, and we were just, chit-chatting, and I gathered from it that you're a woman of Christ.
Yes.
So you said your goal with Good Heart RN is to nurture, educate, and support. How do you apply your faith into all of this?
First of all, just believing and knowing that Christ can do anything. Christ can do absolutely anything. Also believing in my heart of hearts that He desires for us to be well, but He also desires for us to use wisdom, to have wisdom and to use wisdom. I believe that if people are better educated and better equipped, that they will do better.
So you're pretty much retired from the traditional nurse environment that you've been doing for years. Why do you continue to do this? It seems like this is more than just a job, but a calling and a passion for you.
Absolutely. Nursing is a ministry for me. I recognize that very early on. It's very much a ministry because, again, you can go to a class and you can be taught, but something as sensitive as caring for sick people who are typically vulnerable people as well. It takes something that you can't necessarily learn in books. Now, you might speak to another nurse who may say totally different than that, but speaking for myself, it's one of the greatest ministries that God has allowed me to navigate in. You're exposed to masses of people in a very vulnerable state. Illness makes people vulnerable, right? To be able to be trusted to move in that space is very dear to me. So it's much, much deeper for me than a job, much deeper.
And what's the gratification that you get out of all of this?
Oh, there's so much. There's not one thing, but the first thing that comes to mind is knowing that I've helped or empowered someone to help themselves.
Okay. And what would be the goal of Good Heart RN?
The goal of Good Heart RN is to get the information out, to educate, but to get to people before they're in or at the point of no return. And when I say point of no return, if I can get to someone and have them understand what they're dealing with, what they may need to do, what they can do, what questions they should ask, and save them from being on dialysis for the rest of their lives, or save them from crashing into an ICU, from losing a limb, or losing their digits because they didn't understand what diabetes was, or that they needed to check, or that they should follow up.
How can people get in touch with you if they're interested in procuring your services?
Okay, info@goodheartrn.com. That's our email address. I also have a phone number, 475-302-0159.
All right. Thank you, Nurse Betty, for taking time with your busy schedule to come here on this platform and talk about the great service that you provide for people here in the community. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.